Hi everyone, good morning. It is 8 a.m. here, and we are doing another episode of our Top 100 interview. So today we will be speaking to Monica, our Costa Rican winner for this edition. So let's just give it a minute for more people to come in, and also for Monica to join us. So let's just give it a bit. Just hang in there for more people to join. Now, before we get into our conversation with Monica today, so Monica, just a little bit of introduction about her. Monica is actually a photojournalist and is very experienced. She has been photographing for the last 15, 16 years, and she has a very interesting background because she started off studying chemistry and then decided to switch to pursue photography later on. So let's just give it a minute for more people to join us. Hi. Okay, hi Monica. So I believe you are, it's 6 p.m. from where you are in Costa Rica. So I think you need to just request to join this live, and I can add you in to have a conversation. So you need to request to join. Great. So just waiting for the connection. Hi.
Hi.
Finally we meet.
I know. So great to see you, Jacqueline. How are you?
It is. So how's everything going in Costa Rica right now? You're still there, right?
Yeah.
Or have you traveled?
Yeah, I'm based here, and I traveled for a little bit and lived away for a little bit, but this is my home now. My kids go
I
to school
see.
here, and my life is here. So yeah, this is where I
Which
am.
city are you in?
I live in the Central Valley in San Jose, the capital, really close to like the center of the capital. So yeah, I'm in the busy part of the Costa Rica.
What is the weather like today?
Well, today, believe it or not, even though we're in a tropical country, it's been very cold. At least
Oh,
yeah, I know. December, usually we get a lot of cold wind from the north. And so we get rain, like a little bit of rain. We call that hair of a cat because it's just like this little
oh.
down. And it's been very, very windy and cold. I'm not really that used to it, but it's
Oh, I mean, believe me, I think you'll be pretty happy here in Malaysia. It's summer all year round.
oh yeah. Well, we do have pretty good weather. It's just that this time of the year that gets a little bit cold. And we do get a lot of rain. You guys get a lot of rain in Malaysia too?
Yeah. Really, really apocalyptic storm. But it lasts just for an hour, then it's done.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it's
we have
very
but today's been a little bit unusually cold.
I see, I see. I think okay, we have a few more people who joined us. Now, I think so, based on some of the questions I asked, I drafted for you when we did the outreach to get people to join the interview, is that I realized you have such a rich coverage on social issues in Costa Rica or in Latin America in general. But before we dive into that, I just want to get everyone to understand a little bit about your background. So from your portfolio, I realized that you studied chemistry.
I know.
And just walk us through how did it start up from chemistry and ending up a photojournalist for the last 15 years?
Yeah. It's I love my time as a chemist student in college. I learned so much about the world, and the way you understand the world when you're a chemist is so different because you interactions and attractions and things that actually work out and don't work out in a reaction, in a chemical reaction, actually do translate to life and to who we are. I mean, we are in the end an amazing, a lot of molecules, right? And we are they just take over us, and we just follow that. So it was a great time. It was very, I really did like it. But the problem was, it was very demanding, I have to say. And I was really tired. And then all of a sudden I realized that I wanted to do a lot with my life, but being a chemist in Costa Rica, I was probably going to have to do a lot of things that weren't that exciting. And I'm not saying that that's the case for everybody, but you know, I sometimes I say to my friends, I didn't want to be in a white room with a white coat for the rest of my life. You know, it's just, so I started just doing a little bit of search inside me, and I discovered that that I love art, and I wish I could draw. I am the worst. I have no ability at all. But I wanted to communicate through images, and so I gave photography a chance. And then I found a really good school that was affordable, that was a public school here in Costa Rica. Still is a public school, and it's still really good. And I gave it a chance. And then a couple months into it, I was like, this is it. So I my parents were devastated. But I basically
How old were you back then? How old were you back then when you did the switch?
I was 22 years old. Yeah, and I was doing really well. You know, a lot of people told me we didn't understand where that came from, because you were doing really well, and you were, you know, I was achieving good grades, and it's just, it wasn't for me. But I don't regret it, honestly. I learned a lot about the world and how it works, and I every so often I reach to that and try and understand life that way.
I think a lot of people have that kind of share that similar path when they didn't start it off as a photographer or set out to be a photographer in the first place, and they suddenly realize halfway through their studies or halfway through their life that photography is their actual calling. So for the benefit of our viewers here, there are people who are just doing photography as a hobby. But they really love it, but they have no idea how to have the courage to pursue it. So I think it would be good if you can walk us through the thought process of, you know, how did you find the courage to make such a switch, especially when things were going so well at 22. You were having good grades, future was good. I suppose the paycheck would be pretty good as well. It would be very stable. To give that up to be a photographer or a photojournalist, I think a lot of parents would not be happy about it. So was there a lot of negotiation? How did you do it?
Well, I wasn't that happy, you know, and I have very supportive parents. They, you know, they weren't happy at the beginning, but then eventually they just realized that I was a much happier person doing photography. And it was super scary because, like you just said, if I was a chemist, you know, and the path that I was going through, I was probably going to end up in academia and do, you know, work at the university and do research. I was probably going to have a pretty good paycheck, like you say. And as a photographer, that's not one of the reasons I do it, because well, but that's another conversation. So I just, eventually they realized that I'm a much more fulfilled person. And I also, my attitude towards the world changed a lot, and I was more positive. I was more outgoing. I was just, happy. And
it made you a more passionate person.
Yeah, I was just feeling good, you know? And all of a sudden, it wasn't a problem to sleep very little or be very tired or just not having all the answers, you know? It wasn't a problem. I knew it was just gonna make me happy. So in that process, I have to say to people that are facing that, I did take close to a year to do other things. I was still in chemistry in college, but here in Costa Rica, when you go to college, you also have to take a lot of classes that are not related to your major.
Right.
And that happens in a lot of parts of the world. So I did all of those classes that I never had time to take. Like I took soccer, for example, and I took history of Africa, which I find fascinating. And then I took classes about environmental issues, and I did all of those things, and I took still a couple of chemistry classes in there. And then I went out and I joined a dance class, and I joined singing classes, which is something I always wanted to do. And I am very, very lucky because I was able to do all of that. And in that process, I discovered what I wanted to do. And I also discovered that if I had taken a little bit of time between high school and college, then I probably would have found this path earlier. So I think my advice to people is just take a little break and just take a little breathing, and give yourself the time to let your inner person speak to you. And
I
that,
see. Don't rush into decisions and explore a little more.
yes, exactly. Give it a chance, you know, if you can. I have to say, I know I'm blessed, and I know I have the possibilities to do that. So I really wish for everybody in the world to have that, because then you end
It
up having,
is. It is lucky to have a job that you're passionate about and you wake up excited to go to work every day.
yes.
So, among all the things that you explored, what
Mhm.
is it about photography that stood out to you among all the other art form, like singing, dancing, or even history? So, what is it about photography that really captured your attention and decided, oh, I want to pursue this?
Something's happening with something here. I'm sorry about the noise.
It's okay.
Well, you know, I was always very attracted to photography. I always thought it was very interesting. But in the end, what I knew is that I wanted to be able to communicate through art, and to actually accomplish something and do kind of like help to change things positively, which is something that I also wanted to do with chemistry, you know. And so that was still in me. And I guess I could have done it with anything, I guess, right? Because there are artists out there, there are singers out there, there are historians out there that are changing the world, right? And there's also photographers. And I just, the moment I started taking the photography classes and I had a camera in my hands, it just felt like it was meant to be. And so I just didn't look back. And at that point, honestly, I had made such a big change in my life that I would have done it again. Maybe I had it. This sounds crazy, I know, but maybe do a couple of photography classes and be like, oh, no, this is definitely not for me. I was at the place and at the time in my life where I needed to find that path, and photography was it. So, yeah.
That is such a beautiful thing to hear and to talk about, that you found something that felt right for you. And I think you do have that activist in your, inside of you, that is wanting to come out one way or another.
Yeah.
So I guess photography, but there's so many forms of photography, and you seem to be more inclined to photojournalism, more covering social issues, something more topical. So was there a little bit of exploration into what kind of photography that you want to specialize in?
Yeah, well, when I went to photography school, you have to take classes of all different kinds of photography. And when I took my documentary photography class, I actually did my project about my great grandmother. At that time, she was 98 years old, and
Wow.
she was a very, very important person in my life. And when I did that class, and I actually was talking about somebody that I cared, but also through my emotions and my own feelings, it felt right. Um, and then when I was about to finish my schooling, I got the opportunity to apply for a job at a newspaper, but on the commercial department. And so I was taking pictures of other things, for advertising, or for basically advertising. So I saw what the journalists on the editorial department were doing, the photojournalist, and it just looked so exciting and so fulfilling. And I just really wanted to try. So I tried to get a couple assignments with them, and they started giving me assignments here and there. And that's when I really decided that that's what I wanted to do. And a couple months after that, I got an offer for working the first newspaper I worked for here in Costa Rica, which is an English language newspaper called the Tico Times. And at that time, I mean, we're talking 2004. So at that time, they were still in print, and it was a weekly. Now it's only online, so it comes when it comes. Um, and that was also beautiful experience, because it was a very different newsroom where you would cover the issues in a different way. You would cover the issues, giving it a little bit more time. You know, you would like actually, something happened on Monday, and it didn't matter if we didn't have it on print, because we were going to be on print by Friday, and we could just give little updates on our mailing daily email that we had. So that was actually very, very good for me, because then I got to see a different kind of journalism also that is more engaged and more, it tries to go into the issues a little bit deeper.
Yeah, to give it more time to develop, for the story to develop. It's not just about the speed, but it's also about the depth.
Exactly, exactly. And there they gave me a lot of freedom too. I was the only staff photojournalist, so they were basically like, just do whatever you want, fill the pages with photos, and so it felt right. It also felt right, and I just kept on doing it. And honestly, even though journalism and photojournalism and journalism in general is really not that profitable anymore, if ever was, I don't really know.
I never was.
Right? I still, after I quit the newspaper 3 years later, because I felt that I needed to challenge myself more as a photographer and start doing other things and find other paths. And I tried different things. I did a lot of nature photography in that, and for a couple of years too. But I still keep going back to photojournalism, and it's just really, I do what I have to do to pay the bills, you know. But that's where my passion is, and that's what I try to keep on doing. Yeah.
I completely understand that kind of feeling you're talking about, because I had been a journalist for 8 years before I transitioned into this role. And yeah, it doesn't pay much, but the impact it leaves on you is tremendous. You carry that for life. And okay, so we have a question from the audience. So Prabjot is our Canadian winner. So his
Oh,
question is, do you think that being a photographer, to what extent we can impact the society physically, is a bit limited?
what?
So to what extent a photographer can impact society with their work? And do you think right now that role is becoming limited?
Oh, well, I see that, and this is totally my personal opinion, but I see the job that we have, or the responsibility that we have as communicators, to actually be putting out there the information that needs to be out there. Um, I don't try to be the one that does change necessarily. And I try to see what we do. Yeah, our responsibility is to bring the information to the people that can actually change the world, if that makes any sense. And because of that, yes, I do agree with what is his name or her name?
Prabjot. Prabjot.
Rabja. Okay, I probably mispronounced it. I'm sorry. That our impact can be limited, because really, in the end, once you do that, it's not in your hands anymore. But if we don't put up a flashlight into those issues, and we actually make it public knowledge, then there's even less of a chance that change will happen. And I see it with my sister, is an anthropologist, and she's in academia, and she does so much super beautiful, impactful work, but and she works around subjects that are very important for our country, but because there is no light that, or there's no way of bringing it to the general public, then it also stays kind of there. So I guess we can do as much as we can do, as long as we always make sure that the information that needs to be public is out there.
So I think just to summarize what you just said is that photojournalist's job is to be the first part of the change, where you surface the issue for people who knows how to spark those changes, to notice it. So it is not to say that it's not a direct influence in society, but it's the first step. It's the first record of history when you capture and when it's being published on anywhere, so that it gets enough exposure for people to notice it. So
Exactly.
is that accurate?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Like, I always some there are moments where you photograph things that are so heartbreaking, and I have never been in situations like war, or a famine that is killing a lot of people. Like, my country is really a blessed country all in all, even though we have a lot of things that we need to work on. But I do feel sometimes that I wish I could do more, but I know that my job is to actually let everybody know what's happening. So together we can put pressure so things change, and those who actually have the power to change things do it. So
Mm. So that's a great segue into one of the questions, is that what do you think? How do you think a photojournalist has a responsibility to their community, and do you play a role in connecting people apart from surfacing issues? But you yourself as a person,
mhm.
through your professional work, does that help you connect better with your community? Does that have an impact on you?
Definitely, definitely. I do, like I said, I believe that every person that works on communication, a journalist, a photojournalist, has the responsibility to your community to um, talk about the issues that are happening in your community and bring the information, the right kind of information out, especially if we're talking about information that is related to solutions, right? Because we know the problems, but we want to hear more about what's working and how it's working and how we can implement that in other areas. And that is, to me, the responsibility that I feel I have with my country and with my community. Now, as a person, I try to do as much as I can besides just putting out there the information and hoping that it reaches the right people. And I know that I have a lot of power because I also can reach those people and ask them to do something about it. So, and little things, sadly, I wish I could be like, okay, let's just change education in Costa Rica altogether and then bring out, that movement. But I don't see that as being my responsibility. But I can do little things, like there's a family in this community that I'm photographing that just went through a lot of hardship, and they really need help with this and this and that. And I can reach out to my own, group and bring that help back. And sometimes there are journalists and photojournalists that feel that you should totally keep yourself separated from the issue. You should not engage with people. You shouldn't have emotions.
Impartial.
Yeah, yeah, and that's not only impossible, but for me, unfair to where the position that you are. Because if you can help as a person with a little bit of something extra, why not, right? You already did your job as a journalist, and you put out the information and the photos, and you bring noise around this issue. But now, as a person, let's do a little extra. And that's how I see it and how I try to do it. Yeah, sometimes I feel a little bit overwhelmed and powerless when I'm like, oh my God, I wish I could do more. I can, save this, using the word save, right? These people from I don't know what. But I am also just one person. So I have to do as much as I can as a person, and then just make sure that my job, my stories actually say what needs to be said to promote change.
And I think that you touch on something really important where there is a moral dilemma whether a photojournalist or a journalist should be involved or emotionally attached to the story or the subject that you were interviewing or photographing. Now, along that line, you feel that it is okay for you to be more involved in them. Um, but were there times that you were being told off or you know, people objecting to how you stand in such a dilemma?
Well, I guess I've been told to hold off more because it could affect me a lot. Right now, I'm working on a story about immigration in Costa Rica, related to workers that come to pick the coffee in Costa Rica. And so I was at the border with Panama, well, maybe like a month ago, and I saw so many kids that had been waiting for hours under the rain, and they were hungry. And to be honest, they were so well behaved, because my kids would have been like crying and complaining and like,
Mhm.
and it just really, really hurt me. And at some point I started looking for food for these kids, and like, I have this stuff in my car, and I have these apples, and I'm just going to bring them out and whatnot. And then I did what I could as a person, and I'm trying to put out the story that needs to be put out. um so good change comes through these issues. And then I wrote this blog post, and my husband was like, baby, you have to be careful. You can't start crying every time you see a kid that is hungry. And I'm just like, I know, but it's awful. And he's like, you know, if you're gonna hurt yourself, it's gonna hurt you. And I'm like, well, I think me personally, it would hurt me more not to react and not to feel. There is people that prefer to keep a distance, because yes, maybe they will feel really, really, really upset and hurt, you know, seeing what they see. And there are, like I said, I'm lucky. I don't have to cover war or, you know, during COVID, I decided not to do any effort to cover anything that had to do with the disease and the death and all that, because I also know that as a person that will be very devastating. But there are photojournalists that are doing that amazing coverage, and they're doing an amazing job. And I'm guessing what the only shield that they had is to keep their emotional distance. And I don't blame them, right?
Yeah,
It's
I completely understand. Like, there's also a question where how do you keep seeing all these tragic scenes every day through your work and not feel helpless and not feel that I can't do this anymore? That's
Mhm.
why some of the photojournalists, they put up they kept a distance. They still want to keep their profession, but
Yeah.
not being emotionally drained. So how do you know, being put in that situation so many times throughout your career, but still maintain that kind of positivity and that
Yeah.
kind of energy, enthusiasm when you approach every story?
Well, you know, when you get to see little things that actually matter that happen because of the work that you did. Um, it was maybe 2000 and end of 2005 when I had that first dramatic experience. I was covering this soup kitchen in a shantytown in Costa Rica, and you know, it was this priest that went through a lot of struggle to get all this food for all of these kids, most of them born in Costa Rica from immigrant parents, living in really hard conditions. And I was visiting that shanty town, and then I started pushing other journalists in my newsroom to go and do a story about this soup kitchen. And then we ended up doing a great story with a really awesome journalist, Rebecca Kimmich. She wrote this incredible pieces. And then because of those pieces that were at the Tico Times, this soup kitchen got a donor that basically helped feed 100 and something kids one meal a day for a year. And when I saw that happen, I was like so touched, the realization of how much you can do if the information reaches the right person. So you just have to keep on trying putting it out there, so eventually it will reach the right person, and then that's when, you know, things
You
can
just need to have faith. Just
yeah.
need to have faith and remember all the little victories that you've managed to achieve along the way.
And there are other situations where I'm hoping I just never heard of the things that happened because of the coverage that we did.
Mm.
And 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 I just have, like you said, have faith that it was more than what I saw, and just keep on doing it because I have seen that it can be done, and I have seen that it can reach the right people, you know. And so yeah, I mean, that's what you do. You just like it, I guess it's just like being a teacher, where you just teach your class and you hope the one kid in that classroom actually got what I was trying to say. And maybe we'll be, you know, maybe this person will turn into a chemist and find the solution for global pollution or something, you know. It's just like that
Right,
kind of
right.
thing.
That's one way to put it.
It's
That's a really interesting way to put it. That you hope one kid gets it.
exactly, and maybe this kid will have the answer, you know. So the same thing as a photojournalist, you just have to put out the work and do your best and be fair to the story. And also I try to be positive with my stories, and I try to show what's working so we can emulate it, and then hope that the people that see it is touched by it and reacts and helps you change the world that way.
That's excellent. That's excellent. No, Latin America has a very special place in my heart. Yeah, maybe because I'm also a street Latin dancer, so I have a lot of influences from Latin America. So through your work, I can feel your passion for your country, Costa Rica, and also even the Latin American region in general. So maybe just share with us, why is Costa Rica or Latin American in general is such a special place for you, that you spend so much time and energy and passion for it? Because a lot of photographers dream of, coverage all over the world rather than being stuck in their own country. So why is it that attracts you, that you feel that Costa Rica is the place for you to advance your career?
Well, I've been there. I've also wish I could go to the other side of the world and create amazing photographs. I still know that one day I will live in Africa somewhere and do something there. I don't know what. But I think what made me understand that this was the place for me to be is because I understand my own country. I understand Costa Rica. I understand sometimes why things happen the way they happened. And once you have that knowledge, it's power, and then you can communicate better. Um, and you know, my country's not as colorful as Guatemala or Peru, or as, you know, culturally enriched as Argentina or Uruguay. You know, we're really kind of like in the neutral, kind of like blah part of the spectrum. But I do feel that there are things that we're doing right that need to be said, you know, put out there, and that we need to show. And I also think that we need to learn a lot from other places. So I also feel that responsibility to my country to, you know, bring in here things that could help us be better as a country.
I think that's a really good point to make, because you being Costa Rican yourself and photographing and bringing out the issues in the country, you give it context. You give it a lot of depth because you understand the nuances in society itself, and how certain things are done in a Costa Rican way, that someone from outside photographing may not understand. So being the local, photographing local, has its advantage. So, so those of you guys who are dreaming about, photographing overseas, maybe just start with your own community, start understanding and learning about your country as well, like what Monica is doing right now.
Yeah, and there's an exercise in photography that they tell you, you know, the first day you can photograph only in your room, And then the next day you can only photograph your house. And then the next day you can, and it's just having that, giving yourself that time to understand your own space will give you a clear understanding of others, I feel. And I think that the other 100 is actually an amazing example of that, because especially this issue with COVID, we are all stuck in our own countries, or at least the place we call home, and is our country. And we all went out there and photographed what these amazing people are doing to help the world survive this crazy pandemic. And I think that the photos that you guys have put in this project just shows how much power there is when you photograph what's from what so yeah, I mean, we all dream of photographing overseas, and we should all do it too. That's important too, to go outside and see other realities and understand other cultures and experience other cultures. We should all do it too. But I always feel, and I feel very happy to be back and to stay here and to work from here and to keep trying to create projects around photography and photojournalism and journalism in general in my own country.
That's really the message here, because a lot of people complain that, oh, I can't travel, I can't go to overseas for work or for fun. But really, COVID is in a way a blessing in disguise for us to kind of look inwards and look at what we have already and have that gratitude with blessings that you don't see before. So, so for those of you who are still thinking about photographing overseas, perhaps start now. Like what Monica's exercise, she mentioned, photograph in your room. Tomorrow is your house, and then your compound, and then your community. So I think you'll learn a lot about your own space. And
everybody will find out that in the end they want to stay longer in their own room, and they want to stay longer in their own house, because they start seeing things that they didn't see before. Once you put your camera in front of your face, you see totally different. So
excellent. So I think that's all the questions I have. Monica, any last words about how did you find the project, and yeah, just in general, anything else to add on?
Well, first I want to thank you for doing this amazing job. I do treasure a lot what the other 100 does. I also participated in the other 100 educators, and it really helped me through a very difficult personal time that I was going through. And I will always thank you guys for that. It's part of the healing that you guys do with your project. And also, this one was very exciting to have a reason to go out there and look for something positive. And that was so healing for me too. So I think that I want to thank you and all the staff and all the people at the Gift Foundation and the other 100 for doing that, and for allowing us photographers to speak about other people that need to be spoken for. So and I hope to be part of every single issue from now on. We'll see.
That's fantastic. I love that's music to my ears, because I will make sure you get the open call invitation for the next edition.
Honestly, I'm always looking for it. I was looking at
So the next edition, I think we are doing the other 100 chefs.
Oh my God, are you serious?
Yeah, we're thinking about food. So I think, but that's for another conversation. I'll keep you posted.
Oh, that's awesome. That's great. That's awesome.
Yeah, and Monica, thank you so much for those kind words. I think that's what really drives us and my team here at the other 100 to produce more, because it hasn't been easy raising funds and also getting people to submit, especially when the theme is so specific this time. This has been the hardest edition, when we don't have much money, and then there is a very limited avenue, because people can't pull out pictures from their archive. They have to go out and shoot at a time when movement is restricted. So thank you so much, and all of you who participated and are watching this live broadcast. We sincerely thank you for your contribution, and we hope to have you Join us again in another edition in the other 100.
Thank you. And thank you everybody that joined. Yeah. I was very nervous
Yeah.
about this. So much fun.
No, why should you? You spoke great.
Oh God. I was like biting my nails, but it's good. All good.
No, no, and your story on Chepe de Bana, is that how you read it? Chepe de Bana?
Chepe se baña. Yeah.
Chepe de Bana.
Uh-huh. There you go.
Yeah, that's a fantastic story, and it had like crazy support online from people who are fans of yours and fans of Dr. Chavez.
Yeah, well, that organization is just amazing. Like they just take it out of the park. They're doing an amazing job here and really proving, and that's what I admire by them, really proving that you can make positive change even in the worst scenario. And they have gotten so much support. It's just crazy because people see what they do, and they are just not afraid of anything, just going for it. So it was an actually be able to make sure that they make part of this edition of the other 100.
Excellent, excellent. So those of you who do not know what the Chepe de Bana story, so check out Monica's photo submission for the other 100 healers, and you'll find what the other cool things they're doing. They basically converted a bus into a shower station for the homeless to have a place to clean up and look fresh.
Yeah.
So thank you again, Monica, for spending time with us. And those of you who are watching, stay safe and stay healthy. I'll catch you up. I'll catch up with you again on another episode next week. Thank you, Monica, for joining us.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Have a good one. Bye, everybody.
You too. Bye.